Thanks for the invitation, and it's good to be back in Bonn. And this talk will be based on joint work with Tapio Rajala, so I stole one of his talk subjects, so he had to talk about some Sobolev functions before. But so what I'm going to talk about is about well, two things really. So first thing is comparing LP and L infinity transportation distances. So we get some L infinity estimates. So I mean comparison between LP and L infinity transport distances. And obviously if we have some comparison between these two, then we have some sort of characterization for the convergence in L infinity transport distance, which is, we'll see what it means here. And then there are other kinds of L infinity estimates, so they are for optimal transport plans. So that's just for optimal transport plan for the LP transportation distance. So somehow it doesn't involve any optimality in the L infinity transport distance case. Okay. So what is our setting? So I guess we know what basic LP transportation distances or Wasserstein distances are. So I just put them there just to show the notation that I have. So it's just the LP norm of the distance, minimizing the LP norm of the distance with respect to transport plans, and the L infinity transportation distance is the same, except for the norm is L infinity norm. So there's the essential supremum here. And a fact that I won't be using in this talk is that the W infinity is the limit of WP as P goes to infinity. So it's a limit case, but the W infinity behaves very differently from the WP with finite P. So that's the talk is about comparing these two mainly. So okay, so this is a well-known result. So I wrote this as a theorem. I maybe not a theorem anymore, but so this is a result for WP. So WP metroizes weak convergence up to the convergence of beat moments. Okay, this is well known, but then the question is that is there some sort of analog result for instead of WP you get W infinity there? And well, I wrote there that not really, even though I'm going to present something about this, but just the point is that there's nothing this simple. So what we would like to do is to have here the W infinity convergence, here the weak convergence, and then something. But I mean, something like this is not going to happen, because if you formally take the P to infinity here, then you get something like diameter of something or distance from a point of the distance from a point of the support of these measures. But it's not going to work. And well, why is it going to work? Let's draw a few very simple examples, which are, I think these are just to illuminate what happens. So very, very simple. So 2 points and which one's which? Okay. Let's just put there's delta at 0, and then there's some. So this is 1 minus t, and this is t. So we are transporting, I mean, some way here between these two measures, so we have just Dirac deltas there, and obviously as t goes to infinity, so this goes to 0 here and this goes to 1, then it converges weakly. So we have this estimate for WP distance, but the L infinity distance is always 1 because you always have to transport from 1 to 0. So that's fairly a trivial example, but then there's the example number 2 is again 1, 0, but we have masses on both sides. So okay, this is a little annoying to write. So which part? I don't know. Okay, let it be like that. So then we just say add more here and put less here. So this is which one's which? This is alpha. This is alpha minus t, and this is the other one. So we just slightly imbalance the masses here, and still, I mean, if t goes to 0, these masses will converge. But again, because the masses are different on both sides on this 0 and 1, you have to transport from 0 to 1. So the L infinity distance is always 1. And third example, I mean, this is I don't even know why I put this there, but so this is just there's a Dirac delta, and then we put some something there, just to I guess just to show that if this even if this support is connected, it still doesn't work. It still doesn't help anything. So it still fails. Yeah. And in all of these cases, if as t goes to 0, the measures converge in WP for finite p, but not in the L infinity transportation metric. These are, and also these are like basic examples for that, which will come to later, at least the first two. But okay, so one thing I should mention, this is not really about our results, it's just something that should be mentioned, that L infinity transport distance has a sort of dual formulation. So it's like this, so we can compare the masses of a set and its R enlargement, and it there. So if we take R, so that this inequality holds for any set, any measurable set, then this R is bigger than W infinity, and in fact the infimum of those R's is the L infinity transport distance. And so this tells us that there is, so if we compare it to the examples, this tells us that there is there's the R, so there's some distance factor involved. So here obviously the R has to be bigger than 1 always. So I mean, you can see that distance can't go to 0, but there's also the actual mass has to be close to each other. So there's sort of two things working together there. And okay, just to note that why this is a dual formulation is this can be proved by using Kantorovich duality for where the cost function is the 0, 1 valued characteristic function of this set where the distance transported is less than equal than the L infinity distance. So I mean it's sort of cheating in some sense, but I mean because it's not really. I mean, so this is useful theorem for calculating or estimating this L infinity transport distance, but that's all we use it for here. Okay, so you notice that these are different topologies, the WP and W infinity distances give different topologies. So we always have this inequality. So if we want to look at the convergence in W infinity and compare it to the convergence in WP, we want the other inequality, and in our case we use some function omega there. So of course we don't, this doesn't hold in general, but we are in this talk we are going to look for situations where this sort of omega can be found, and of course it has to be somehow uniform in some sense. Yeah, I mean you can't just make it up in case by case. Okay. So results of this form. So this was studied first by Bushit, Jimenez, and Reyes, and they gave this theorem. So they studied in Rn. So they had a bounded Lipschitz domain P greater than 1, and they had fixed the other measure here to be a Lebesgue measure with density f on omega. And what the result says is it says that the WP distance is bounded below by some power of the W infinity distance times some constant here, and then a term depending on the density. And this is so this 1 over L infinity norm of 1 over density is the lower bound of the density. So if we remove this, we could just put the lower bound of the density here. So that's the lower bound of the density, and yeah, also this condition here is important. So we fix mu, and then we have this estimate for all nu which live in the support of mu. And obviously this is the best we can do because of what happens in example 1. So if the 0 is the support of mu, and if there's something outside, we can just do something like in the example 1, and we can't get this estimate. So this condition is important. Also, you may notice that there's the p strictly greater than 1, which is slightly annoying. So they did case p equal 1 in one-dimensional case, but in higher dimensional case the case was left open, and that's because their proof of this theorem went through a similar estimate for optimal transport maps or optimal transport plans. So they have this theorem first, or I guess they had this as a proposition. So this was for convex domain with same assumptions. We get the same inequality, except here we have this essential supremum of the optimal maximum distance of transport at the optimal transport map, and the optimal, it's optimal for WP. So this is like a real L infinity estimate. So here's the L infinity norm of the displacement, and okay. So the problem, of course, is that this estimate does not hold when p equal 1, and they gave an example in the real line with the norm cost, of course. So that's not good. But so then me and Tapio started thinking about this, and we sort of thought of these two theorems as separate. So Buschit, Jimenez, and Reyes first did this and then used this and some other things to prove the previous theorem. But we did these theorems separately, and we managed to improve them and really characterize the situations where this sort of estimates are possible. Okay, and so this is our theorem. So in complete metric space, we fix again this reference measure mu, and in our case, so in Buschit, Jimenez, Reyes case, the h is just this function h is just t to the power p, but this theorem works for any h which is a non-decreasing and positive function. So then the following are equivalent. So we have this omega, which gives lower bounds for the transport cost. Again, for any nu which lives in the support of mu. And well, the condition is very simple. So we have this if and only if the support mu is compact and connected. So this is a very nice theorem, because I mean this condition doesn't depend on the cost function in any way. Of course, the omega depends. I mean that's obvious. So also in the theorem we see that we can take omega to be of this form. So there we have the cost function, and the function m is just the lower bound for the measures of balls of certain radius. So that's and also so theorem gives this, but so the main point is that there's two parts, so the lower bound and the cost function bound, not cost function part. So I like this theorem a lot, so because this is very simple results. Okay, so few remarks. So yeah, this condition is important. Yeah. So the function omega actually cannot be larger than this. So in that case, or in some sense, we are fairly optimal. I mean, we have the constant 1/17 here and 1/2 at the start, but I mean, this is very close. And I guess we see in the proof why this is so. And yeah, we should also point out that this compactness and this function m, lower bounds for the measures of balls, they are fairly natural. So support is compact if and only if the measures of balls are bounded below uniformly. Yeah. So, okay. I'll try to present the proof of the theorem 5. So, most of the proof, most difficult part of the proof is in this hidden in this lemma. So, okay, so we have mu which pretty much satisfies the compact and connected support condition. And we have nu on this living on the support of mu. That's the assumption. So if we have a transport plan between them, and for some r we have this inequality, so whatever it is, so then we have a bound for the L infinity transportation distance. So what does this mean? So this means that if this inequality holds, this means that the set where mass is transported long distances has a small mass. So it means that only a small part of the mass is transported long distances. And maybe I should say something about the proof of this lemma because this is key part. So how do we get from this condition to L infinity estimates? So idea is to use this transport plan lambda, and notice that if we are transporting long distances, then we can actually modify the transport plan and only transport short distances. So first we partition the space in such a way that say this is less than 8r, and also there's a ball of radius 2r contained in each set of the partition. And then, so because this mass that is transported long distances, it's very small. So if you remember what the m is, or it's written here. So this condition means that most of the mass here is actually transported within the partition set. So only a small fraction is transported, like say here. And that means that in every set of the partition there is mass on the starting side and the ending side. So you can instead of transporting, say, this long distance, you can first transport here, then transport here, and then transport here. So then we get the bound, obviously here diameter is 8r and here is 8r, we get 16r, and I don't remember where the 1r comes, but okay. So this obviously you have to compute that this can be done, but this is the basic idea that if we have only small mass transported long distances, then we can transport it in this sort of parts. So it's all, we construct a new transport plan which only transports short distances, and we get this estimate. Okay, but now, so if we have this lemma, the proof of theorem 5 is, or one part of the proof of theorem 5 is fairly easy. So we assume that support of mu is connected. So then we use lemma 7. So we use just the, okay, obviously we use r, take r to be 1 over the L infinity distance. So then we have to have this inequality the other way around. So we actually have here this inequality, and if we have this inequality, well, okay, this is obvious that we get lower bound for the transport cost for this plan, and it works for any transport plan. So take an infimum, we get what we wanted. So proving the lemma gives one side of the theorem very very easily. Okay. So that's one part. Then, assuming that we have this omega giving the L infinity estimates, so then we have to prove that the support of mu is compact and connected. So we pretty much do the same argument 3 times, and another argument. But so the connectedness argument is really always the same. So if the support has 2 components with positive distance, then we get a similar situation as in example 2. So we can test with this sort of nu, which is again the T imbalancing of masses at set A and at set B. And now, since we imbalanced a little bit here, then the L infinity distance has to transport between these sets. So it's always strictly greater than 0, so it's bounded by this distance. But this transport cost can be bounded by T times the age of the diameter of the support. And okay, here we assumed, for simplicity, that the support mu is bounded. But okay, so obviously, as T goes to 0, we get the contradiction. We get the contradiction because or omega of this should bound this from below. And yeah, so if we restrict this unbalancing to a bounded set, then we can handle the possibly unbounded case as well. Okay, that's a problem. And okay, so here, so now the compactness. So we have actually proved that the function m is bounded from below, or bounded from 0. So we test with nu, which is okay. So here we have support of mu, and then here's the point x, and then we have, okay, this should be the same actually, but so we just take a ball out of radius r, and so squeeze all the mass into this point. So then if we transport from here to here, we have to transport, one way to transport is to transport all the mass in this ball to this single point. So there's the single point where to transport it. So that gives this. So all the mass is transported to the center point I, which is maximum. And of course, the L infinity distance has to be bigger or equal than r. Here you need be more careful because it might not be connected yet, but this can be done. Okay, and okay, we just connect these. So here we have this bound. So in particular, we get that the omega has to be smaller than this m times h. So this is a byproduct. And also here, of course, we divide by h, and we get a lower bound for these masses. So we get a lower bound for function m, and again, lower bound on function m gives compactness of support mu. Okay. And we didn't actually yet prove that it's connected. So we repeat the same argument because now we know that it's compact, and then we get components with the positive distance from each other. Do the argument again. Yeah. But so this concludes the proof of this theorem 5. So the key lemma and then some smart testing with suitable measures. Okay, and so we have now some comparison between in the special case between LP transportation distances and L infinity transportation distances. So we can try to characterize convergence with respect to the W infinity metric. And well, we noticed that so there's the condition that nu has to be on the support of probability measure on the support of nu, which is I mean that's not good. Not good for thinking about if like sequence of measures. I mean they shouldn't be restricted in that way. So we need to be a little bit more careful. So that's why we actually, in our paper, we don't actually have lemma of 7, but we have a more detailed version of that. So there we use these delta connected sets. I mean, this is just for technical reasons. So it's delta connected. If you can, between any 2 points, you can find a sequence of points which are delta away from each other, a chain of points. So with this delta connectedness and here we have this version of lemma 7. So for measures which are living on the epsilon enlargement of the support, we get a similar estimate as in lemma 7. So the statement is, so this condition is again the same, but actual L infinity estimate is the different. So here is the 17R, and epsilon and delta play a little role, but they don't play too big of a role, so we can characterize the convergence using this lemma. I don't go into more details. We just state this theorem. So now the critical assumption here again is that these probability measures are compactly supported. So that's that's the restriction here. But then we can characterize L infinity or convergence in L infinity transportation distance. So what are the conditions? So first, of course, I mean weak convergence or WP convergence. Then there's the Hausdorff convergence of supports. And finally, there is this complicated condition, which is the connectedness condition. So if again, the point of this is that if there are, like if mu has support of mu has two components and it's compactly supported, so they are positive distance apart. So then there should be mu case converging to mu. They should also have this similar thing happening. So they should have two components converging there. So this is just saying that if this is the case, so I mean, if you can decompose these measures into two parts with two converging parts with positive distance of their supports, the masses has to be same. So the mass here is always the same. Or when you compare these two, I mean, if you compare the two, the masses have to be same. So this is somehow connects the connectedness and the mass condition. So this is a little complicated condition, but it just says that if we have essentially handles the case that if there are many components, then you can sort of treat them separately. So they are.
Maybe I misunderstand something like that. You have a sequence UK1, and measure mu1, and you request that LP losses time distance goes to 0. By definition, this would mean already that the measure is the same. Otherwise, the LP losses time distance
Same.
the assumption is that WP of something goes to 0.
Yeah.
Something that must have the same mass.
Yeah. But so this is for these. Let's see. Okay. So this is for the partitions, so or decomposition. So it would be possible that so these parts would have varying mass. So this ensures that they ultimately they have to have the same mass.
I understand, but your assumption.
I mean.
Maybe you do not really want to assume that WP goes to 0. Because already WP of something being finite says that these two measures have the same mass.
Yeah.
Weekly and at the moment, and then it works. Weekly and moment before you have, if the sequence has the same mass, and they converge weekly and the moment, then they converge in Wasserstein. But it's this a priori, the Wasserstein a priori is the same mass. That's what. So basically, this is the condition you should. If you use the equivalent in the previous one, then you don't use the mass a priori. Or you could say that the Wasserstein distance means that the renormalized measures converge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is a little. Yeah. You should have. I mean, yeah, weak convergence because the point is to use weak convergence instead of WP, but that's just bad notation here. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so okay, it's a little. Yeah, no. So this makes it a little bit more, even more confusing. With this condition 3, which is slightly annoying. So this theorem does not hold if we don't assume this compactness assumption. So the counterexample is a little bit like the example 3, but you just take some like exponentially decaying or something like this, which decays infinitely. So this is density of mu is something like this. And then you just, for mu k, you start from, say, k and you put half here and then just put Dirac mass with the rest of the mass of this interval here in the middle. And then if you have enough decay, it's just say exponential decay here, then it converges in any WP. But of course here on each interval the L-infinity transport distance is positive. I mean it's like 1/4 of the length of the interval or something like that. So this is the counterexample. So even it has, like you can have a support of this. These measures can be like whole R or the whole real line if you reflect. So this theorem, so the compactness assumption is important. And then finally, so there's this was mostly about comparison between W infinity and WP distances. But then we had these L infinity distances for optimal transport plans. And well, now already Busit, Jimenez, and Reyes, that their counterexample showing that we have to assume something more than just compactness and connectedness of support of mu. So there should be a condition depending on the cost function. And well, we have some condition, sort of strict cyclical convexity condition. So the easiest case where this condition holds is when the cost function or the function h is strictly convex and support mu is geodesic. So that's fairly close to what the Busit and Jimenez-Reyes did. Okay, so this is the theorem. So here we have again, okay, non-decreasing continuous function. So here it's actually continuous because we use cyclical monotonicity. So this is the condition. So of course compactness has to be there, but then the condition is that between any 2 points on the support of mu, you can find the sequence of points so that somehow instead of transporting from x to y, it's cheaper to transport from x to this point than from here to here, here to here, and so on, all the way to y. So there's some cyclical monotonicity type of thing going on here. And if this condition is satisfied, then we get L-infinity estimates for optimal transport plans. And again, here for any nu living on the support and minimizer of the function of optimal transport plan, we get this type of estimates. And okay. And well, here again we have a form from this omega, so it's again multiplication between m and h, but here we have some function rho, and well, rho is such a function that instead of this basic cyclical convexity, we can improve it by this rho. Actually, that probably should be here, this distance, but well, whatever. So this inequality can be improved by rho, and that comes into the omega. And well, okay, I'm not going to prove theorem 3. It's fairly technical, and it only relies pretty much only on cyclical monotonicity. You have to, and of course compactness to construct this function rho, but then you just use cyclical monotonicity arguments. and ultimately you get this theorem. But that's all I wanted.